moments later.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and another episode of the B20Vtec build. In this episode, I'm finally getting the motor into the car and fired up. To be honest, at this point, I'm getting pretty antsy and just want this motor done and running, and having to video everything is taking a lot of time. So sorry, but the footage is going to be jumping in time a bit. Once I get the LS motor I had just smogged the car with pulled, I had to swap over the flywheel, clutch, transmission, and accessories. My goal later on is to get another set of everything so the LS is complete again and easier to swap back in when I need to smog the car again in 2 years.
A few moments later.
Okay, go. 5 seconds. The first start went fairly smoothly. After cranking the engine over to get the oil flowing, it started up fairly quickly. The plan was to let it idle and get up to temperature for 15 to 20 minutes, do an oil change, and then do a light break-in on the road for 100 to 200 miles, and then take it to the dyno to get tuned. From my experience building motors, this is my 4th new motor build. At first startup, they run fairly sluggishly, kind of like the timing is retarded a lot. And after the first 100 miles, the responsiveness improves dramatically. After I got the motor started, there was a few things I still needed to work on. First, the catch can system. Since the B20Vtec doesn't have a PCV system, I used the level 7 performance oil filler cap vent and a simple eBay catch can mounted to the passenger side frame rail. I tried using some nice braided 10AN hoses, but the fittings on the cheap catch can would not thread on, so I just got some big 7/8 inch rubber fuel line hose and some hose clamps to attach them. Second, I wanted to cut the valve cover to make it easier to adjust the cam gears. I wasn't going to chop my mint Type R valve cover, so I'm going to have to run the black one for now. I may try to get this one repainted at some point. Last was just swapping in some new spark plug wires. After doing a bit of break-in miles, I started getting a random check engine light. It seemed to run fine after restarting the ignition to reset the ECU, but it came on a few more times. I have an old school Honda S100 ECU which would not flash the codes when I jumped the diagnostic connector, so I had to throw in my spare stock GSR P72 ECU to get the code. Turned out to be a code 7 for throttle position sensor. As I drove it more, the issue became more apparent and the throttle started to cut out, and I'd have to restart the ignition while the car was moving to get the TPS working again. So I got a new TPS sensor to swap in. To calibrate it, you need a multimeter and a voltage, and the voltage needs to be dialed into 0.5 volts with the throttle closed and around 4.5 volts at full throttle. Easiest way to get the voltage reading is to insert a pin into the back side of the red wire until it contacts the wire inside. Got the new TPS dialed in, but everything I tried, the max it would go to was 4.34 volts. I think this is probably fine, but I'll have to see how it runs. So that's a wrap on this episode. If you made it this far, thank you very much, and stay tuned as the B20Vtec is going to be hitting the dyno in the next episode.